You know, I almost didn't turn on the mic there. I was laughing so much. Tough to misspell respect, but anyway, thank you, Reverend Sharpton, for joining us here this morning. Kevin Miller with you. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Coming up, we'll talk to our friend Hank, but joining us now is Jeff Ferry, Research Director at the Coalition for a Prosperous America. We're talking about the issue of tariffs, jobs gained, jobs lost, and see if, what the media says about tariffs being bad really adds up. Mr. Ferry, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you with us here on KIDO Talk Radio. So, what's your analysis here? Tariffs good, tariffs bad?
Well, as you said, the media is, or as you suggested, the media is exaggerating and trying to create an atmosphere of terror and fear. In reality, so far, tariffs have stimulated job creation in quite an impressive way. As our article on the Coalition for a Prosperous America website says, we found a 20-to-1 ratio, 20 jobs created for every job lost so far due to the tariffs enacted by the Trump administration earlier this year. The tariffs are creating jobs in the industries they're protecting, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who studied economics, because that's what tariffs do. They stimulate domestic industries.
Well, that was the idea, yet the president doesn't get the credit for it.
Well, no, unfortunately, everything that involves Donald Trump seems to, in the media, turn into a battle over this man's personality and so forth, and his personal characteristics. And I'm an economist. I try to look past all these personal issues and look at what's happening in the economy. And, you know, the story is pretty clear that we've had 20 years of deindustrialization and the stagnant living standards and the decline in the real wage paid to the average production worker, male or female. And, that's part of the reason why there has been so much dissatisfaction with the performance of our economy. Now, tariffs are not a perfect and complete solution, but tariffs are a step in the right direction, because the reason this country's deindustrialized is because we've pursued some very stupid policies with the approval of too many economists, I've got to add, and countries like China have industrialized at our expense. So we've got to fix that.
Well, how do we get back to the idea of, making America great again when you have so many people, Republican and Democrats, wanting to export our jobs, our standard of living, to other countries?
That is, you put your finger on the problem. Exports and imports are a key component of this problem. For 42 years, we've run a trade deficit. We've allowed our country to deindustrialize. And there are too many people in the financial sector in particular who are saying, oh, no, it's all wonderful. Don't worry about the $6 trillion of foreign debt. Don't worry about the loss of well-paying jobs. Everything is great. And everything isn't great. I mean, economies grow when they have growth industries at home. And, this isn't just about the latest cutting-edge high technology. This is about everything from steel and aluminum up through to high-tech industries like microprocessors and smartphones, which ought to be made in this country, not overseas. And tariffs are a first step in that direction, because we need to be a lot less dependent on China.
I would agree with you on that, and yet you have people, allowing China inside our most technologically advanced fighter, building parts for the F-35A.
I mean, we've had some outrageous things happen. You're right. China has certain components that are required for our defense equipment. China has close to a monopoly on rare earth elements, which are needed for every single technology product. Until recently, China was providing the security cameras that forts and defense installations around the U.S. were posting on the fences to monitor who goes and who comes. And, the maker of those security cameras said, oh, don't worry, we're on the Internet, but we're not sending the information back to China. Don't worry. I mean, how gullible can you be? So we need to design these things, which frankly, we've already designed the best technology products in the world, right here in America, in places like Silicon Valley, Boston, Austin, Texas, and Raleigh, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. But we need to make those products here. We need to have companies here manufacturing those things. People in China and Germany look at us in stunned amazement. Why would you invent a product like the router, which is the core of all internet traffic, and then allow all of it to be made in Asia?
Mr. Ferry, let me jump in here for a minute. By the way, Jeff Ferry joining us from the Coalition for a Prosperous America, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. As someone who worked for 4 years covering folks at the Research Triangle Park in Raleigh or the Micron campus here, I totally agree with you. But you have, Micron, one of the biggest producers of the chips that everybody uses. The Chinese government tried to buy them. It's a jewel really here in the Treasure Valley, and now they're building a plant in Taiwan, and they're going to ship all those jobs to Taiwan and then sell all those chips back here. And you think to yourself, when do you put profit before love of country? I mean, are you really going to save that much? And if you're in Taiwan, that's a lot closer to China than Idaho.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the chip industry is the very heart of all technology. And we've seen not just Micron, but Intel also building factories in China as well as Taiwan. And, we've seen Samsung become the number one chip maker in the world. We need to have that industry on our own shores. There's no question about that. And China's been very clever at playing the market, at telling those companies you can only sell in China if you make in China. We don't say that. We say, you can sell here, you can make it anywhere, you can, I work in a technology company, and the CEOs, they love to give speeches that say things like, we're not an American company, we have X thousand employees in China and India and Russia, we are an international company. And then they add, I've been to India and I've seen the poverty. We're doing a lot of good for these poor countries. And everybody wants to help poor countries, but we have to remember we're Americans, and we've got plenty of poor people here and plenty of people out of work here, and we've got a security concern in defending our own borders. So the laws need to be changed to incentivize these companies to say, look, we want to know how many people you employ in America, and if you want to sell to American companies, we want to understand what you're doing to build the American economy. You have a greater loyalty than your loyalty to the shareholders to return them a quarterly profit. I mean, that's important, too.
Right.
It all needs to be taken into consideration.
But what do you make of the media and everybody else having this augmented self-loathing of anyone that says we need to take care of our own country, calling us xenophobes and everything else? Well, look, the Chinese play for the home team, China. Everybody else plays for their own team, but if Americans stick up for themselves, we're the bad people.
I couldn't agree with you more. Economic nationalism is not a bad word. And you know what? Nationalism and internationalism are not contradictory. You support your own country, you support your own people, you support your own prosperity, and then you participate in the international community. That's what we did historically, and we need to get back to doing that again.
Mr. Ferry, let's talk a little bit about, we'll end it here with the Chinese, how they hack into our systems, how they are our largest trading partner, but they're really not our friend. And we'll give you the softball here, friend or foe, the Chinese?
They are certainly not our friend. They are a country that is determined to become a superpower, to build up their military, to control all of Asia. They've got a big grudge over what happened in the 19th century. I had a good discussion with a friend of mine who was born in China, whose family comes from China. He's very pro-American, but he says, look, the Chinese have not forgotten the Opium Wars. And I said, we had nothing to do with the Opium Wars. That was the British. And he said, you're all the same to the Chinese. You've all been trying to keep China down for centuries, and China is going to come back. And look, we don't want to dominate China. They're entitled to build up their economy, just not at our expense. So we have to get real and realize they are determined to steal all of our technology. Only a month ago in July, a Chinese-born national who works for Apple was apprehended walking out of Apple with 2 stolen circuit cards and a whole lot of software on his hard drive. I mean, that's how they play. They're smart and ruthless. We need to get just as smart.
Well, and when we take a look at the Chinese, they're in our universities with this Confucius Institute. And look, when the Chinese come over here, they're taught you research and you spy and send everything back to the mainland. And that's not right-wing extremism. That's just how it is. They're very loyal to their country, and they've done a great job of infiltrating ours.
I agree with you again. They consider that their patriotic duty, and that's part of the reason China sends students over to America. And American universities are incredibly naive when they say, "Oh, we want to open our doors to the world's most intelligent people." I mean, American universities have no understanding of how global power politics is played.
Mr. Ferry, if people want to get a hold of you, what can they do?
Yes, thank you. We are Coalition for a Prosperous America. We are a group of manufacturers, labor unions, and farm and agricultural groups. We are nonpartisan. We have Democrats and Republicans on our group. And, it's not just Donald Trump. There are many smart men and women in Congress. I'm thinking of Democrats like Chuck Schumer and Tammy Baldwin that support what we're all about. So I'd encourage people to go to prosperousamerica.org, join our group, click on research to read the articles I write about the U.S. economy today, and get involved, because this is not a partisan issue. This is, do we want America to continue to be the prosperous, successful, powerful country it has been throughout the 20th century? prosperousamerica.org. That's us.
All right, Mr. Ferry, take care now.
Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you.
All right, that is Jeff Ferry joining us. Not to be outdone by our friend Hank. So, Hank, before we get started here, I've got this thing from the Huffington Post. You'll love this. You're familiar with that new movie, Crazy Rich Asians? You heard about that movie?
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it, and I don't know a lot about it.
Here's a post. Crazy Rich Asians is not about white people, but white people need to see it. I really don't understand the whole double, triple standard when it comes to race. You couldn't say, I guess you could say stupid, poor white people, but, these stereotypes that are continually one-sided. Your thoughts?
Well, yes. The first time I saw any reference to that movie was Time magazine. I'm not a big fan of Time, but there was a deal about the Crazy Rich Asians, and I think the August 27th issue of Time magazine, but I didn't get a chance to go through it to know what all they talk about. But yeah, there's a kind of prejudice the other way. There was somehow that Asians necessarily are smarter or better than white people. White people are more, and there's, I think racial stereotypes or racial attitudes go both ways is what I'm implying here.
Well, and that's the funny. Everybody is smarter or whatever than the white people. Of course, tell that to the folks in South Africa that are getting their land repossessed because they're white.
Well, yes, and the problem is that the economies in those areas are tanking because they are destroying the white settlers in what used to be the area of Rhodesia now, what used to be Rhodesia. And the biggest problem that and this is what I was getting at, like liberal Steve, and this dovetails into what we're talking to right now, is that Thomas Malthus influenced Karl Marx, and subsequent liberal people on the left by the idea that diverse resources are limited. In other words, that the ultimate thing about population growth would be mass starvation. Malthus never took into account improved agricultural methods, or that the economic pie actually is a growing pie. It's not a limited pie. And liberal thought, whether it's a liberal Democrat or a Schumer or Pelosi or whatever, they all believe that this pie is limited, and the duty and the role of government is to make sure that as much as possible to make sure that everybody has their fair share of the pie. And the reality of it is that government policies in the end hurt the very people that they do want in the name of share pie. And just like in every liberal or administrative state country that has a large administrative state such as us, or even the Russians, the people that end up becoming rich in government managed economies are the bureaucrats. They quit. You have the swamp.
Well,
and
but what does that say about the whole swamp, the culture of contamination? When you have someone go to Congress, they can do the insider trading, which is illegal legally. And, look at Harry Reid. Look at dingy Harry Reid. There's a guy who, goes in as a poor man, leaves out a multimillionaire, and we just sit back and say, okay, we want some crumbs.
Well, you got Hillary, too. The Clintons are notorious. The Democrats are the first to cry about the business taking advantage of government or government taking advantage of people, but they're the first to go to use government to enrich themselves. And it seems like your liberal mind, a lot of your liberal minds are preoccupied on wealth. I mean, everything that Hillary does is focused on increasing her not only her personal wealth and power. I mean, she's not all her cry about caring for the little folks. The thing that's common about all the denizens of the Washington swamp is it's me first, not the United States, not the world. It's about themselves. They come first. That's why the Republicans and conservatives are the main enemy, not the Chinese, not the Russians, because they threaten the existence of the swamp.
Right, but then you have the Republicans that are in on it, most of them.
Well, yeah, it's partly intimidation. It's partly intimidation, and it's partly an attitude that they go along, get along. That's the problem I have with what you call rhino Republicans.
You remember, right? But you remember in World War II, during World War II, I guess you had the Truman Commission, and that's where Harry Truman, give him hell, Harry, was created, where he got his name. Because they went after all those people that were sticking it to the government, and they found them out and they turned them in.
Well, yeah, it was a defense. He basically was the ones that they were basically double charging the government. He was basically keeping an eye on the defense contractors during the start of World War II. The irony was that Franklin Roosevelt at first opposed the Truman administration, but eventually became convinced that politically that the Democrats had more to gain by reining in some of the contractors and necessarily aiding and abetting them. So, I mean, it kind of worked both ways on that. One more comment I was going to make in the end, too, is that Hernando de Soto said the miracle of capitalism. He wrote a book about it. He was a Peruvian economist, and he made the point that the reason why most third world countries starve is because they don't have legal systems that protect property rights or land ownership, and also government policy are the two biggest things that make Peru or any other country a third world country. They don't have the legal structure, and the governmental structure works against private capital, and in order for capitalism to work, you have to protect property rights. And the Soviet Union prior to communism was the third largest wheat exporter in the world after Canada and the United States. They couldn't, after Stalin, feed themselves. I mean, just to show you what when you destroy property rights. And one more thing, Madonna.
There's a lot of one more things.
Well, this is it. Madonna's world is centered around her attention. Is she's always been that way. Madonna's about focusing attention on herself. The only person I think that should been speaking at the Rita Franklin thing was probably Stevie Wonder. If anybody understood her style or her music and she wrote a pop hit song with, I'd say it would be Stevie Wonder, not Madonna. And I'll leave you at that.
Thank you, Hank.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. If I were running for governor, forget the economy, forget education, forget transportation. I would declare that if I were the governor or the senator or the congressman, that skies in the West would be smoke-free once I had been elected. And I would not stop until our skies are smoke-free. I wonder how many votes that would get your politician of choice. Before we get to Tom and your calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, let's get you to work safely and on time.
Very covered.
And to Tom in Nampa with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Kevin. Saw a thing on Fox News where the president signed the paperwork to deport a concentration camp guard back to Germany. And
85 years old, yes.
Yeah. Well, better late than never. My thing is, the agency that's actually in charge of deporting him is ICE. Now, I'm wondering, where are all the anti-ICE protesters? I mean, ICE is supposed to be so horrible. They should be out there protesting this poor concentration camp guard's deportation. If these schmoes were around in 46, 47, whenever this person got into this country, they'd be screaming for him to be let in. Oh, everybody gets in. No borders, no country. Where are the protesters?
Well,
Why
forget about that. Forget about the boys of Brazil. There you go. You just let the Nazis in.
Yeah. I got a question for you.
Sure.
If you're going out in the evening and you need a babysitter,
right?
You're just going to, hire the first schmo you see coming down the sidewalk, right?
Not me.
I mean, they want people coming in here, including these multiple convicted child molesters. Oh, let them in. No problem. Would they let their 8-year-old daughter be babysit by somebody without vetting them? Just wondering.
No, but they'd probably let your daughter be babysat by them.
Yeah. That's just about how they operate. Their daughter, they're one law for me, different law for thee. I saw another article you might think is interesting. Hello?
Yeah, Tom, I just kind of listen. I don't overtalk, so go ahead, please.
Okay. The concealed weapon permits nationwide since 2007, it's up over 270%.
Well, imagine that. I wonder why.
Yeah. I'm just like, guys, your gun control initiative, I think you're having some problems. You might want to rethink your program there. And interestingly enough, the greatest increase in concealed permits is among women and minorities. Guys, you got problems. The very base you are so enamored of protecting is basically telling you, no, I'll take care of myself. Thank you very much. Also, strangely enough, overall, I think crime's going down, isn't it? I haven't checked the latest figures.
Well, except in Chicago.
Well, Chicago, what do you expect? I mean, Chicago isn't really part of the United States. It's an annex of the Twilight Zone.
Hey, Tom, I got to run, but thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Kevin.
And don't forget, everybody, coming up Wednesday morning, 6:05, Dinesh D'Souza. Plus, don't forget, we're going to give away tickets Wednesday morning to the Western Idaho Fair. Are you fired up for the fair? That's going to be great. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Couple things going on, most notably, mob rule runs wild in North Carolina. Will it come to Idaho? Details coming up. Plus, we go back to the Video Music Awards. Now, many of you understand when this thing called music television used to play videos, and they used to talk about, what Depeche Mode was doing. Today, it's all about politics.
You never know what's going to happen at the VMAs. I mean, beats pop off, bad language, people run to the bathroom and send out crazy tweets. It's basically like your typical day at the White House. In your face, Trump.
Class act, that Kevin Hart. And most people, they like Kevin Hart. I have never really thought the comedian was that talented. In fact, when he came to the Ford Idaho Center, people were going, hey, are you going to go see Kevin Hart? No. To me, he has no talent. He's very successful. a gazillionaire. He has a deal with the liberal CBS network, by the way, whose head is accused of sexual harassment, who had an admitted sexual harasser, David Letterman, in an employee, and rewarded Mr. Letterman for many, many years. So I'm sure they're very proud, but this has no place in entertainment and shows you how skewed and mistaken people like Mr. Hart are.
You never know what's going to happen at the VMAs. I mean, beefs pop off, bad language, people run to the bathroom and send out crazy tweets. It's basically like your typical day at the White House. In your face, Trump.
You know, as Michael Jordan has been attributed to saying, Republicans buy sneakers too. Pro-Life joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Pro-Life.
Good morning. You know, I heard the ad there about girls with guns. And
yes.
The picture came in my mind that the girl that could win would be a young mother, say she had 3 or 4 children, beautiful children, and a beautiful mother, and she'd be sitting with her children around her with her rifle, you know, and maybe one of those belts with a lot of ammo on it, and I think that would do it right there. What do you think?
I'm not a judge in it. We're just encouraging people to vote. So any comments from me could be mistaken as an endorsement.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
as someone who holds their position with the utmost respect, I don't ever want to, again, think that I'm pushing for someone to win the Girls with Guns. A lot of great prizes there from Independence Indoor Shooting. I will tell you that.
Well, anyway.
What do you mean, well, anyway? I mean, you could win a gun safe. You could win a gun. You could win a year's free membership. That's pretty good.
That's pretty nice. Well, anyway, what I wanted to talk about was
well, wait a minute. It's back to what you want to talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, morality and economics. Now, for the world, anybody, individuals, to prosper in the long run, sustainably forever, you have to have basic morality. If you're not honest, if you're not sexually moral, if you murder your babies, eventually your civilization, you as an individual, your company, will deteriorate and fall. And people don't get that through their heads. But so anyway.
Well, that's a counter narrative to the culture that we live in, which is about instant gratification at the expense of others.
Right. Right. What we do now is we do business with anybody that can make us the immediate buck, and we do not say, listen, if you're going to buy from me, if I'm going to sell to you, you have to have these moral standards. We don't do that, but I do that as an individual. I call people, when I go to do business with somebody, I ask them what their position is on gay marriage, on a baby murder.
How do you say that? You say, what about the gays?
No, I just say, well, like my dentist, I called him.
Like I used to say that, but I can't say that anymore. What about the gays?
Yeah, what about gay? And then they'll say, well, we don't talk about politics at the office. And I say, well, you're not the office for me.
And then you tell them you'll take your business elsewhere. You're
right. I'd rather do business with somebody that says, well, hey, I think gay's okay, because that person is honest. But the person that...
You see, and you know something? I agree with you in that point. Just be honest with people. And when you deal with many people these days, no one wants to be honest when they just say, look, I'm not available. Don't tell us that you're this, that. Just say, look, it's not for me. I can respect that. Can you?
Yeah, I totally can. And that's, our politics, no one wants to offend anybody and when they're trying to win, and so they don't tell you anything about what they really believe, and maybe they don't really believe anything.
Well, but let me give you an example, though, Greg. Are you know Dinesh D'Souza, right?
Yeah, I'm going to listen.
Okay, so 6:05 Wednesday morning, he's on with us. So this was sent to Jeff the Suits boss. Now, contractually, I am my boss per name is Jeff the Suit. That's in my employment contract, okay?
Right.
That's who I work for. Well, whoever this individual was, his name's Ryan, or maybe it's a female, wrote the corner office, and I'm going to share this with you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Now, I have to censor this because it's profanity-laced, but it shows you why people go in the closet if they're conservative. So here you go. It's not even like we're having Ann Coulter on, who in previous incarnations of this program we've had on for years. Maybe we should get Ann Coulter on. So here you go. Holy F. You are going to have that Dip S, blah, 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 on air live. Wow. You've got, well, we'll just say appendages, okay? You know your children will be learning about this. Shame. What is likely to actively be on the wrong side of history? Oh, what is it like to be actively on the wrong side of history? No question mark. Your gonzo journalism has gone sour. If only the Boise market was important, your foolishness might make it on national media. But fascist on air in Idaho is not news. I will be one of the 3,000 people listening to hate callers that drink the alt-Christ Kool-Aid and shame. In 10 years, I will play it back to your children and shame. Kill yourself now for your God. You know it's the right thing. And that was sent to Corner Office Kevin.
Yeah, well.
That is the intolerance, the bigotry of the left that is not reported.
Oh, yeah, it's all over the place.
And really, for having Dinesh D'Souza on the air, a person who has been accomplished, graduate Dartmouth, best-selling author, best-selling documentary filmmaker, we have people wishing me that I'd kill myself in the name of my God.
Yeah, well, I'll just bet you that Dinesh D'Souza, he keeps his sexuality at home with his wife, and he...
I think you're missing the point here. This is why people don't want to talk about Christ. They don't want to talk about God. They don't want to talk about faith, and certainly conservative politics, because you have the loony libs on the left seeking them harm, irreparable harm.
Yeah. Well, the person that wrote that, they're obviously anti-Christian. And
definitely anti-Dinesh D'Souza.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you.
Now, where is the
many
liberal
years...
media protecting me? Where is the ACLU protecting me?
Well, they're not going to.
Right.
So we'll have to protect each other. And
that and Smith & Wesson. Pro-Life, thank you for the call. Pete in Mountain Home, you're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Kevin. I had a thought for Liberal Steve and the various left-wing environmentalists out there who are so deeply concerned about overpopulation in the world. And I know this has been a problem for them back Earth First and the Sierra Club and all those groups. And my thought is what they need to do is they need to set an example. Each one of them that is so deeply concerned about overpopulation should find kind of a barren spot out in the desert somewhere and lay down and just return their personal nutrients to Mother Earth. And that will lower the population, and it will help fertilize the earth and the coyotes. What do you think? Would that be a good way for them to show the way to the rest of us?
Well, that whole crowd is do as I say, not as I do.
Oh, exactly. That's like the people that think socialism is wonderful want to be at the top of the food chain. They don't want to actually have to worry about toilet paper.
You know, you go back to the folks, and I know the Warhawk Museum is going to have their big air roundup this weekend, but you go back to the folks that saved the world. And and I hate to say this because I love the Lincoln Memorial. I love the World War II, or not the World War II Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, but I love the World War II Memorial, and it's very ornate, but there's a saying there, and they say in between, and I'm paraphrasing, Pete, and I get teary-eyed when I talk about this, the founder of our union, Washington, when you have the Washington Memorial on one side, on the other side you have the Lincoln Memorial, and then you have the protector of our union, Lincoln. You have this collection of ordinary Americans who rallied around one another and saved the world against fascism, Nazis, socialism. And, look, I was born in 1968, but we were taught what those folks in World War II did. We were, we would watch the shows on television, and we would be proud of how they saved us.
Oh, yeah.
And today it is, who cares? Socialism. Everyone who is about socialism, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're an ill-informed nitwit, you are spitting in the faces of those Americans that liberated the world from National Socialism.
And you are incredibly stupid. All you have to do is look at what's going on in Venezuela, all over the world in socialist countries. And, hey, that's the road to serfdom. If you want to be a slave, set up a socialist dictatorship.
Well, and it's easier to be a slave because you don't have to make decisions. The government, the head, the master decides everything for you.
Yeah, and of course the downside of that is eventually the master decides that you're not worth keeping around. But yeah, there's an online video that I can strongly recommend. If you go to your search engine, type in Battle Hymn of the Republic and World War II film, and it's a really good rendition of the battle hymn with actual videos from World War II. Guys going in through the surf. It's amazing.
Well, look, and I agree. And the idea that you would have candidates for national office saying it's time for socialism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and then guys like Cuomo saying America never was great.
Right.
This is a man whose grandfather came over here from Italy, and now his grandson is governor of New York, and he's saying America never was great. Okay, deep breath.
All right. Thank you, Pete.
Anyway, yes, I think Liberal Steve ought to set the example for the rest of us on dealing with overpopulation, and just go out and fertilize Mother Earth.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
You're listening to Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be part of your day. It looks like the battle to keep Boise State from using eminent domain in their quest to get stadium is heating up. You've got the Idaho Freedom Foundation and Boise City Council member T.J. Thompson spoke out against the university using eminent domain to get the land for the baseball stadium. Now, we'll talk about that coming up. Don't forget Dinesh D'Souza and your chance to win tickets to the Western Idaho Fair Wednesday morning beginning at 6 a.m. right here on KIDO Talk Radio. More on that in a minute. Traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work.
Eric Everett.
And Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Back to this issue. Boise State has usually gotten what they've wanted. Locally, they are an incredible force. I mean, you take a look at the forces of the Treasure Valley. Obviously, the medical establishment. Obviously, Boise State University, both big employers of folks. State government, yes, hello, that Chinden acquisition of the AHP campus. But they may have overstepped one on this one when you have people from Boise State saying this is crucial. Now, I thought that sports was, one of those not core classes, like an elective. But if you're going to go to school to play baseball and everything else, then get a degree in baseball. Heck, there's a lot of money to be made in baseball, but it's not history, science, math, English, tech, whatever. And to sit there and say that this is crucial for the university, you're going to kick people out of apartment complexes. You're going to, do something to the Boise Church of Christ. Apparently they have a parking lot or something of that nature. All for a baseball stadium. And then you've hired a couple people, and they seem like wonderful people, and they love the sport and everything else, but at what cost? When you're talking about building this baseball stadium, think about the affordable housing. Think about the student housing that is very rare on campus. Why in the world would you do this? And again, I applaud T.J. Thompson for doing this, a Boise City Council member. Certainly will not earn him any votes among the Democrats. The Idaho Freedom Foundation, for them jumping in. They always jump into those things, and and good for them. I'm glad they're joining the cause that we have talked about for quite some time. But when will enough be enough? And when will the backlash? Look, they got rid of the wrestling program, and that was no big deal. There was no harm, no foul there, right? So today, think about this, is a baseball stadium really serving the interest of not just the university, but of Boise itself, because it is Boise's university. More on that coming up. Dinesh D'Souza, Wednesday morning. Good morning.